Hello and welcome to TESOL's video tutorials. In this video, we are going to be talking about class presentations in the ESL classroom, and I'm going to give a specific plan on comparing media with the use of movie trailers. Creative speaking projects are an essential part of the ESL class. They provide opportunities for students to go beyond conversational speech in order to try out new vocabulary and expressions while building their speaking confidence. Making comparisons is a great basis for a class presentation. The focus can either be grammatical or on vocabulary, and topics can be as diverse as the media that you provide. In this PowerPoint, I'm going to present a sample plan for a class that compares movie trailers of the past and the present. You may adapt this format to describe pictures, paintings, photos, advertisements, or any other visual media you can think of. I'm going to recommend this lesson for an intermediate to high intermediate level and above. As for goals, with our presentations we are trying to build speaking confidence, introduce and practice new vocabulary, in my case, new adjectival vocabulary, and practice expressions on making comparisons and forming opinions. We assume that our students have a basic understanding of comparatives and are able to formulate opinions about comparatives using basic expressions they have learned in the past. A good warm-up or groundbreaker activity will help students preview and practice some of the language they're going to use in the presentation. Why not have students ask themselves and then their classmates some important questions such as, what was the last movie that I saw? What did I think of it? Did I like it? Why or why not? What is my favorite genre of movie? After this discussion, briefly discuss the results with your class. Let them explain what they discovered. Now that your students know the topic and they've warmed up, it's time to give them some new vocabulary for the presentation stage. I tend to think that the best time to learn a new word is when you need it, and accordingly, we're going to give our students new words that they are going to need in their presentations. In my sample, I use a test, teach, test format, something you may remember from your TESOL module, to provide some practice with high intermediate level adjectives for describing movies. In the beginning test stage, I might put them in groups and use a matching activity to test the students' knowledge of the vocab. In the teaching phase, I'll take up those results. We'll elicit meaning, provide examples, and have students explain meanings to each other. Thereafter, a test stage will reinforce that vocabulary. We may want to use the presentation stage itself as a test of their knowledge or do a follow-up activity. It will help your students to focus their attention on some key features of the media that they will be discussing. This isn't controlling the outcome, but rather suggesting some possibilities. We do want to allow for some creative freedom, but suggestions will help. Use a questionnaire or survey that students can use while viewing. Divide the checklist points among the members. The next slide shows an example of a questionnaire that compares 3 pairs of movie trailers. And here we see that handout. We see 3 pairs of movie trailers from the past and present. I've chosen remakes or near remakes of movies. They have a list of questions as well to think about during the viewings. A group leader or the teacher may want to divide these particular points, these particular questions, among different students so that different students all have a focus point for their part in the presentation. After your students have seen those trailers a few times, the groups can break for a preparation period. Before your class presents, remind them of some following points. Every student should speak. Groups should enumerate and divide the speaking points among the group to ensure this. Remind them to try and form complete sentences when they speak. Why not provide a space on your handout with some starter phrases to initiate their thoughts? Ask them to reformulate the language of the questionnaire into affirmative statements. Lastly, encourage them to try and incorporate new vocabulary. Tell your students that you will be listening for those new adjectives. Acknowledge that usage after the presentations are finished. Offer some kind of reward. The presentations are finished, and now it's time for some feedback and your conclusion. Our goal here is to highlight common errors made during the presentation and address them with some correction and practice. Use your notes that you have taken during the presentation to highlight the points of the various presentations with positive feedback. Draw attention to common and significant problems of vocabulary and grammar. Use different elicitation techniques to have them correct these problems. Lastly, highlight the usage of the vocabulary from the focus group. Let's look again at the lesson structure for this plan. We began with a warm-up to generate interest. We moved on to a vocabulary activity which improved their descriptive vocabulary, something that they'll use in the presentation stage. We then moved to focus and define the task for the students so they had more of an idea about their expectations for the presentation. We allowed them some preparation time where they could work together and where the teacher will be available to answer questions and give them guidelines. Finally, they presented, and we offered some feedback at the end. I hope you found these guidelines on class presentations quite useful, and you'll have fun having your own presentations in class. Thank you for joining us. Visit on TESOL's YouTube channel for more free video tutorials and go to ontesol.com for more information on our accredited TESOL courses.